Hello there and welcome back to another review. Today we're going to be having a look at Challenge of the Masters, which you can find, which I'm reviewing from this Shaw Brothers Blu-ray box set, which I can wholeheartedly recommend. Made back all the way back in 1976 and directed by Lau Kar-leung, who directed so many classic Shaw Brothers vehicles. This is yet again another one of the movies that uses the Wong Fei-hung character, as many old school kung fu movies did, most notably of course films like Drunken Master, and even later on in like the early 90s Jet Li, Once Upon a Time in China. Here played by a very young Gordon Liu. Also appearing in this film we have Chen Kuan-tai, Lau Kar-leung and Lau Kar-leung himself. I believe this was the second film that Liu actually made, as Kar-leung actually made, as with him in the director's seat. I think this was the second one he did. I believe, you could correct me if I'm wrong on that, following of course I think it was Spiritual Boxer, was his first one. Here Wong Fei-hung is sort of played as the cocky student pupil type, much like akin to the same way sort of Jackie Chan played him in Drunken Master, you know, sort of like say very young, sort of still wanting to learn kung fu. He hasn't become sort of that rounded sort of prominent figure that he became, like later was known as. So he's very much, like I say, like a cocky student pupil type here, not the sophisticated upright legendary folk hero that you got played by the people like Kuan-tai and of course Jet Li. Gordon Liu actually went on to play Wong Fei-hung again in Martial Club, which you can also check out a review for on my channel, which I reviewed ages ago now, but there is a review for Martial Club. This is a film that at its core is more about, it's interesting, this movie actually, Challenge of the Masters, because what's at its core with the film, the whole notion, the whole thing that Lau Kar-leung is pushing here in like a film narrative way, as opposed to sort of a kung fu movie, it's all about forgiveness, right? The whole film is centered on that idea of being the bigger person, of being the upright person, not lowering yourself, setting standards, and just like I said, that notion, the idea of being the person that leads by example and taking the moral high ground. This is very much what that film sort of plays into here. So the film opens with our two main leads, Chen Kuan-tai and Gordon Liu, demonstrating some forms. And what is interesting about this opening scene, if you watch it, usually in these kind of movies, when a character or like the hero is doing that opening kata or showing off their moves or just setting up the film, getting the blood flowing, just getting you into the mood for the film, usually the film, it would simply freeze frame. Like when there's a credits come up or something, or produced by, they would freeze frame on something one of the actors or kung fu performers is doing in the opening credit scroll. Here are two performers, Chen Kuan-tai and Gordon Liu. They're simply just standing still. For some reason, I don't know why Lau Kar-leung didn't just chose to freeze frame it, but he has them just sort of standing still, because you can tell they're sort of still moving. And I know it's not a big deal, but it's just unusual, because usually, as I say, they just use a freeze frame, hold it there. But it's just something I noticed, is all. Also in this film, we have some kung fu regulars like Fong Hak-on. Wong Yu is here. If you remember I mentioned him in my Dirty Ho review. A lot of people, sometimes he's credited as Wang Yu, but not Jimmy Wang Yu, but it's Wong Yu, who you remember, like I say, from my Dirty Ho review. So it's all about this competition in this film that is happening. Now, if you think along the lines of sort of, say, Dragon Lord with Jackie Chan, you've got the sort of the right idea for sort of the kind of thing that's happening here. You're definitely in the right ballpark. Wong Fei-hung, played by Gordon Liu, as I mentioned, is not respected. Other people sort of look down on him, actually, as well, as opposed to sort of Drunken Master, whereas people, his friends and that, sort of idolise him because he's sort of cocky and he can get away with stuff. Here, in many ways, Wong Fei-hung is sort of looked down upon. He's almost not pitied, but almost. You know, it's even though his father, Wong Kar-leung, is a respected martial artist, he will not teach his son any kung fu, as he finds him too headstrong. Like, he'll teach other people, but for some reason he will not teach Wong Fei-hung, because he just finds him, like I say, he's too headstrong. I'm not going to teach him. It's like, I'm watching that thinking, well, why not teach him to not be headstrong? If you teach him, he probably will learn not to be headstrong. Surely pass on your wisdom. If you're so holy, then, help Wong Fei-hung out here a little bit. And quite funny when he's like, I need to learn Kung Fu, and it gets suggested he should, there's a scene where he's like, I want to learn Kung Fu, and his friend says, goes, why don't you get beaten up on purpose? So he's like, your dad can see how much you're getting beaten up, and then he'll teach you. And he's like, if I get beaten up, he's going to beat me up even more. You know, like, that's not going to work, because if I get a beat, like, if I pretend I've got beaten up and I actually get beaten up, he's going to beat me even more, which I found quite funny. So Lau Kar-leung's character is after someone who knows the sharp kick, and the Mei Hua spear technique is what he's after. They're regarded to be like two of the deadliest stars, and we learn that he is also pursuing a robber. Wing's character thinks Fei Hung has potential as a fighter who wants to enter the power competition in which Wong Yu is badly injured. Fei Hung goes to Chen Kuan-tai to teach him. His name is Master Lu, which he agrees to, as mentioned, as his own father won't. As I say, because it's the whole thing that sort of happens in Prodigal Son. It's like, well, if he won't teach you, I will. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I can't understand sometimes these fathers that they will not teach even their own sons or daughters sometimes their kung fu, because they're obviously, like I say, Wong Kar-leung is obviously a renowned martial artist, but he will not teach his own son. Wonderful scene where Kar-leung catches up with Liu Xiaolang's character in the forest, and it's very reminiscent of Odd Couple in the sense of like the sword versus the spear. And when Kar-leung and Liu Xiaolang get going together, they're really great stuff. Obviously, the two being brothers and everything, and just their chemistry together. And when they fight, they also have a duel at the end of Legendary Weapons of China. But here as well, just I'll say, excuse me, really great stuff. And just where you see Lau Kar-leung doing this stuff, and there's a sword or a spear or both involved, you just can't help but be remembering Odd Couple with Sammo Hung, which is a brilliant movie. So it's just them two doing their thing here. Some really nice camera movement here as well, wide shots, and then it goes to hand-to-hand combat. Kar-leung's character gets murdered by the sharp kick, and then Kar-leung gets informed of his murder. At the same time, Fei Hung is training with Chen Kuan-tai's character, where he has a dummy, which he says is from the Shaolin Wooden Men alley. Again, the Shaolin Wooden Men getting referenced, which they do. In a couple of Shaw Brothers movies, and like I've mentioned before, most notably in the Shaolin Wooden Men / Shaolin Chamber of Death movie starring Jackie Chan, even though they're hardly in that movie. That's always what surprised me about Shaolin Wooden Men. It's called Shaolin Wooden Men. Shaolin Wooden Men are in it for about 5 minutes. Sorry to go off topic here, but it's true. That film with Jackie Chan, it's a good movie, but it's not Shaolin Wooden Men. You'd think it'd be sort of all the way through it. They're not. They're in it just very briefly. So he gets informed about Yuan's death. You even get Eric Sang here as a minor character. You may remember sort of from the My Lucky Stars, Twinkle Twinkle Lucky Stars movie. He was also in Hitman with Jet Li, is another one that Eric Sang's in. It's a kind of frustrating for us as an audience as well as Fei Hung, because it seems a lot of people around him think he's worthy of being taught, but his own, like I mentioned, his own father won't. It seems everybody around him is like, well, you should be being taught. I'll teach you. But his own dad, for whatever reason, just doesn't want to do it. I'll say maybe he's just protecting him. Maybe he's just sort of, he doesn't want him to learn kung fu, therefore he won't get hurt or get into brawls. I don't know. And I will say, as always, Gordon Liu is fantastic. Is that eager, naive student with the keenest and strongest willingness. Like his eyes, Gordon Liu, when he is in that student role, he has this great determination and tenacity on his face. He's always got that great look about him, especially, like I say, in 36 Chambers, obviously. But when he's playing these kind of characters, even when he's playing sort of a master or a monk, I mean, Gordon Liu, I mean, he's so synonymous with kung fu movies, and this film, again, just no exception. You always get that strong sense of determination from Gordon Liu when he's playing the student, and just wonderful to see him just perform. There's like a nice training scene in the rain at some point, which works, which visually just spices things up a bit and keeps things interesting. So Fei Hung returns and challenges Liu Xiaolang, and you guessed it, at the forest again. Kar-leung and him had a showdown at the forest, and Gordon Liu challenges him at the forest as well. Got a thing for fighting at the forest in this movie, and they really do like their forests. Have a showdown, and what is interesting here is he is using the 8 diagram staff style film that Liu Xiaoling would actually go on to make with Alexander Fusheng and again Gordon Liu. So much like the duel before, this goes from weapons to hand-to-hand combat. Like I mentioned earlier, the film is about forgiveness and setting an example. Here Fei Hung helps him. He actually beats Liu Xiaoling's character, but he actually helps him afterwards, and the notion of forgiveness is even really hit on home at the end as well. So Master Peng gets his students some iron rulers that are used for basically whacking people, right? Whacking people in the shins. He gets his students some of these metal iron sort of like rulers that he wants them to use against Fi Hung and his friends, etc. As he doesn't want them to be beaten at this like power competition that they're holding. I tell you, there always has to be someone playing dirty. There always has to be somebody who just can't follow the rules. They just have to go that extra mile, don't they? They just have to go one step overboard. So yeah, he's playing dirty, giving them some iron rulers. So as mentioned with these games and what they're playing, where the different schools compete, think along the lines of, like I say, the opening of Dragon Lord, and you're in the right territory for what to expect here. What is great about this end sequence, it really does show Lau Kar-leung's sort of ability to shoot and direct a big action scene. Now, if you look at that end scene in this movie Challenge of the Masters, you will see there's a lot of extras, right? There's a lot of extras in that final scene that, he had to control all that as a director, right? Because they're on camera, they're in a movie, he's got to control all that. I mean, there's quite a number of people. I mean, it's like a big action set piece with, like I say, a lot of extras. Like I mentioned with my Martial Club review, when they had the rumble in the theatre, Lau Kar-leung is very good, and something not a lot of people might hit upon, is that he's very good at making sure that no one is left out, even if they're just in the background, even if characters are just sort of far away in the distance, or if there's a big shot of lives, a group of people, everybody's sort of involved, and it's almost like everybody has been told exactly and specifically what they need to do in that shot. So everybody's sort of involved or part of the action in some way. So like I say, nobody gets left out. Interesting as well to note that the finale is not like a one-on-one battle. It's not like a kung fu fight at the end of the movie, or the classic showdown kung fu fight, as mentioned, or the most common with, traditional kung fu movies, if they're on top of the hills or wherever it may be, or in the marketplace. I think you mentioned, like I mentioned in the past, many of you interviews, the audience will get bored. I think Lau Kar-leung said that, I think a lot of people in general, if it was just fight, it would get boring. There's no two ways about that. I think it would get boring. Some films can do that, but they have to, like I mentioned, they have to make every fight scene different. They have to make every fight scene stand out. It can't be just another fight, because it does get pretty damn boring pretty damn quickly. And I think Lau Kar-leung was, as a filmmaker, was aware of that. Lau Kar-leung, I think he was somebody that knew it couldn't just be kung fu all the time. Even though that is what the film is about at its very core, he knew it. You have to keep it varied and interesting, and above all else, keep it entertaining. This is the whole point while we watch movies in general, whatever the genre is, you watch it to be entertained. So Fi Hung so Pong Hakon goes. He knows that if he beats him, then his master would just cause more anguish. Again, that sense of forgiveness. Like I said, the film has a great message about being the bigger person. Even Master Peng at the end, the evil guy himself, he sort of has like a mini sort of, you could call it redemption, as he's about to hit himself with the iron ruler. Because he's the one who's issued these iron rulers to his student. He goes to actually hit himself with one. And the film, like many Shaw Brothers movies, just abruptly ends as he's about to do that, because he's like, I've been such a fool. He goes to hit himself with this thing, and the film just ends. So that they do leave you hanging a bit, some of these Shaw Brothers, because they sort of say what they got to say, then they just end, and that's the end of the movie. So I think Challenge of the Masters, you have to go easy on, as it was it was only Lau Kar-leung's second film as a director, so you can't be too hard on it. As I say, Gordon Liu here is dependable as ever. While what saves it, though, is a great cast, some great fights, a strong message. And whilst not exactly an instant classic as, say, 36 Chambers or, even Mad Monkey Kung Fu or My Young Auntie, the film is still a great, enjoyable action flick. As I say, you've got Lau Kar-leung here as well, Fong Hakon. And it's just, like I said, Chen Kuan-tai is another one. But it's one of these films that, it's only his second film as director, but it's still a very, very enjoyable kung fu movie, and definitely one worth checking out. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. I'll see you soon.